You were tuned in to G5 Jeff TV. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the share button as you come on in. I had somebody ask me this question on Instagram. Definitely go follow me on Instagram at BoxingFirst Jeff TV. Also on Twitter, G5 Jeff TV, Facebook, G5 Jeff TV. And he said, yo, does Errol Spence call out Canelo more than he does Bud Crawford? And I'm like, that's a damn good question. I said, I got to sit and think about that for a second. And I didn't have to think long. Yeah, he does talk about Canelo more than Bud Crawford. That's a fact. And people get blinded a little bit by that old video where Terence Crawford and Errol Spence was I think they was in the back. It was at somebody's fight and they were like in the back and they were both talking trash and all that. Outside of that, I haven't heard Errol Spence really be adamant about Terence Crawford. Like, he's adamant about Canelo. Like, so I based off of my memory, I think Errol Spence has called out Canelo more than he's called out Terence Bud Crawford. Now, is Errol Spence wrong for that? It's hard to say. It's hard to say because I'm not a big fan of fighters, quote unquote, daring to be great. And when you hear daring to be great, is usually a guy moving up one weight class or two weight classes to fight a champion at that weight class. It to me, for Errol Spence, it doesn't make any sense to be calling out Canelo because, number one, Spence is too small. That's number one. We're talking 147 pounds. We know Errol Spence gets big in his off season, but Errol Spence don't fight big in a big fight. Like, he's a 147 pounder, and if he's fighting for the IBF belt, there's a 10-pound weight limit that he can't go over. You understand what I'm saying? So when he's fighting under IBF rules, like, there is no weight bully thing going on. So he's usually fighting under welterweight terms. In a sense, Canelo is 168 pounds. He's 168 pounds. Period. He's 168 pounds. He just dropped his WBA Super World title at 160 pounds. So that belt is now available. So Canelo's made it perfectly clear he's campaigning at 168 pounds. So Errol Spence is calling out Canelo Alvarez, and Canelo Alvarez is literally 3 weight classes above him. Errol Spence is 147. The next weight class is junior middleweight. That's 154. Weight class after that is 160. That's middleweight. Weight class after that is 168. Super middleweight. So you mean to tell me Errol Spence is going to, quote unquote, dare to be great and move up 3 weight classes to go see Canelo at 168 pounds? And that's okay. That's okay for him to be ambitious about that. But he has somebody in his own weight class that's right there. Both of them are in their prime. Both of them are champions. It would be for basically all the marbles outside of Pacquiao's belt. And it's the biggest fight to make in boxing. It's the biggest fight to make in boxing. So if you feel like Errol Spence is wrong for calling out Canelo, those would be the reasons. If you feel like it's nothing wrong with Errol Spence calling out Canelo Alvarez, then I'm assuming you had no problem with Gary Russell calling out Terence Bud Crawford. Terence Bud Crawford is 147, Gary Russell was 126. It's the same situation. So if you have no problem with Errol Spence calling out Canelo, I'm assuming you had no problem with Gary Russell calling out Terence Bud Crawford. Going up one weight class, cool. 2 weight classes, no. 3 weight classes, I don't even know how that gets sanctioned. And that's real. That's real. When guys move up more than 1 weight class to go fight somebody, it don't ever end up well. It don't ever end well. And that's a fact. So, yes, Canelo does command a lot of attention because he's the money man. He's the top name in the sport. He's the cash cow. So, from a money standpoint, I understand what Errol Spence is doing. But at the same time, that's not realistic. It's not realistic. Like, period. And for Errol Spence to spend more time on calling out Canelo over Terence Bud Crawford is a head scratcher. It's a head scratcher. Like, even if you agree with it, you still got to scratch your head about it. You still got to scratch your head about it. Now, Errol Spence, he's been talking 60-40, 70-30, things like that when it comes down to Bud Crawford. He has things cornered as far as the business aspect. We all get that. We all understand that. He has more belts than Terence Crawford. He's faced the bigger names on his resume. All of the welterweights on the PBC side. There's not much for Terence Crawford to do at 147. From the top rank side, he's becoming a free agent, I think, in October of this year. So, I mean, they basically have him cornered from a business standpoint. So we get it. Like, we get it. We understand that. Like, you're the business champion when it comes down to that situation. Like, you guys have Terence Crawford in a spot. So it really comes down from a business standpoint. So it really comes down to, are you willing to do what it takes to get the fight done? Like, do you really want to fight? Or is it not high on your priority list? Now, I know people are probably like, oh, well, Terence Crawford said he want to fight Manny Pacquiao first and then fight Errol Spence. Of course he's going to say that, because if he gets Manny Pacquiao on his resume before the Errol Spence fight and he beats Manny Pacquiao, then he has another belt. He has another belt, which means Errol Spence can't talk that 70-30 talk and that 60-40 talk anymore. Now, he got to come. Now that fight is for all the marbles. And him having Pacquiao on his resume, it changes everything. So, from a strategy standpoint, yeah, that's what Bud's supposed to say. That's what Bud's supposed to say, because he's in the minority when it comes down to the negotiations with Errol Spence right now. Errol Spence has the upper hand. He's the A side. He's the A side. So, of course, Terence Crawford is going to say that. But Errol Spence is the A side. So, it's up to him to make it happen. It's up to him to say, you know what? All right, I know I deserve 60-40, but listen, let's do 55-45 and give me 60-40 as far as the back end money, as far as the pay-per-view. Or he could say, hey, let's do 50-50 up front, give me 70-30 on the back end. There's things that can be done from a business standpoint to make the fight happen. But when you're dealing with 2 promotional companies, it's not easy. It's not easy, because it has to be enough money to go around to everybody. And the money has to make sense. It has to be worth the risk, because both of these guys are risking undefeated records. They're risking their belts. They're risking legacy. It's a legacy fight. It's a money fight. It's a legacy fight. All of that. So when you have all of that rolled into one, the money has to make sense. The money has to make sense. But there shouldn't be any Errol Spence Canelo talk, period. You know, because when guys start talking about going up 2, 3 weight classes, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it. I don't I don't pay it no mind. I really don't pay it no mind. But to answer the question, yes, Errol Spence calls out Canelo more than he does Bud Crawford, and I'll leave it up to you guys whether he's right or wrong for that. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section. G5 Jeff TV. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Please share this video. Support your boy. Support good content at all times. I appreciate y'all. Peace.